In this episode of Practically Biblical, we're going to look at yet another story of a time Jesus turned a situation that was intended to corner him and sent his conspirators home unsatisfied and even more frustrated. And we'll learn that contrary to popular belief, that image really is everything. If you stick around to the end of this video, that will make a lot more sense. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name's Brian, and this is Practically Biblical. On this channel, we look at stories of Scripture and offer practical insights that I hope encourage you to explore the Bible more for yourself, because let's be honest, the Bible can be confusing and hard to understand. So consider subscribing to this channel for fresh content every week that's designed to help you grow in your knowledge and understanding of the Scriptures. You can also find me over on Instagram at Practically Biblical, where I post daily content designed to do the same thing. Now, let's jump into today's story. In Matthew chapter 22, we read about an incident where Jesus was asked if it was right or not for Jews to pay taxes to Caesar. And while that sounds like an innocent question, there was a lot more going on behind the scenes. Let me explain. At this point in the gospel narrative, Jesus was in Jerusalem in the final days of his life. His teaching at this point was getting more and more direct as he both declared his coming kingdom that was imminent and instigated local authorities. Just before the verses that we'll look at in today's video, Jesus had told a parable about a great wedding banquet where all the invited guests were too busy to come. So the servants were sent out into the streets to gather anyone, common people, good people, bad people, beggars, and invite them into the wedding banquet. But there was one man that was discovered who had snuck in by his own way. He wasn't invited and he wasn't dressed for the feast. And so this man had been kicked out. And Jesus made the point that while many are invited, few are chosen. And this final statement, for reasons that we don't really have time to get into in this particular video, infuriated a group of religious leaders called Pharisees, who then went out and laid plans to try and trap Jesus in his words. Now, it's important to note that this wasn't the first time that anyone had tried to trap Jesus, but this time they were coming at him in full force with allies from every camp that wished to see Jesus out of the picture. Maybe you've heard the ancient proverb that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Well, that's what was happening in this instance. The first team that came at him were the Pharisees and the Herodians. The Pharisees staunchly believed in and practiced the way of Judaism, while the Herodians were also Jewish, but they were of a more progressive mindset that was more accepting of Roman rule, and the Herods, whom the Romans had put in charge. So, simply given the history of these two groups, Jesus would have been surprised to see them in cahoots with one another, but since they were, he decided to let it play out just to see. They started by buttering him up, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are a man of integrity, and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. And we know that you're swayed by no man because you don't care what other people think." And then they asked their question. "Tell us then, what is your opinion?" You know, since you're not swayed by anyone. Pay no attention to those Jewish leaders in the crowd or those Roman soldiers over there who are watching us right now. Is it right for Jews to pay the imperial tax to Caesar? And with that, the Pharisees and the Herodians quietly and smugly smiled at each other because the trap had been set. There was no way out of this for Jesus. If he said it was right for the Jews to pay taxes, the Jews would have turned on him. If he said it was wrong for the Jews to pay taxes, the soldiers would have had him arrested right there on the spot. All eyes turned to Jesus to see what he would say. But Jesus saw through their thinly veiled attempt at flattery and outed them as hypocrites who were trying to trap him. And then he asked a couple questions of his own. Number one, he asked for a coin, a denarius that was used to pay the imperial tax. And as they looked at the coin, he asked two more questions. Whose image is this on this coin, and whose inscription? Caesar's, they answered. It was Caesar's image and Caesar's inscription that was on the coin. Then Jesus replied, "Then give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's." When they heard his answer, they were stunned, and they gritted their teeth, and they walked away. But why? What was it about what Jesus said and did in that moment that caused such fury? Well, it had to do with the two questions that Jesus fired back at them. Whose image is this, and whose inscription? You see, the coin had the image of one of the Caesars, likely Tiberius, and the inscription on the coin of that day would have said Tiberius Augustus Caesar, son of the divine Augustus. And Jesus followed their answer with the statement, then give to Caesar what is Caesar's, which made the Romans happy. You see, their concern was the loyalty and taxation of those under their imperial rule. So when Jesus responded this way, they had no problem with what Jesus had said. But Jesus didn't stop there. He went on to say, and give to God what is God's, because, well, according to their scriptures, they and we are created in the image of God, in whose likeness we carry. And they were truly the sons and daughters of the divine, Yahweh, whose law, according to the Old Testament scriptures, was inscribed on their hearts. It all had to do with image. The image of the Caesar on the coin identified that coin and ascribed ownership of that coin to the Roman government. But the image of God that we carry identifies us as belonging to the creator of all things. And in this case, image really is everything. It was literally the only answer Jesus could have given that would have both saved his life and turned away those who sought to destroy him. But they weren't quite finished yet, because later that day, another group showed up to take their shot at Jesus. But that is a story for another time. Thanks for checking out this video. I hope you found it helpful in understanding what Jesus meant when he said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's. If so, let me know that by giving this video a like. And before you go, be sure to check out some of the other content on this channel and leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Then subscribe so you don't miss a thing. I look forward to continuing this journey with you right here on Practically Biblical.